So another trial that we faced was one a little bit more recent, and that was in 2016. I had a health issue, a health crisis, and it took about a year and a half before I was diagnosed with an autoimmune disease. So within that year and a half, I had a lot of frustration not understanding what was going on with me. So I'm having fluctuations in my heart rate, and I'm feeling like I'm going to pass out, and I'm having issues with certain types of lighting, and I'm feeling weak. I lost 25 pounds in 3 months. I was having episodes of panic attacks. Never had panic attacks in my entire life. Like, I was experiencing all of this stuff, all of these symptoms all at one time, and thinking, what is wrong with me? And over that period of time, I was at doctor after doctor after doctor, and they're all saying, oh, you just have anxiety. You just have anxiety. I'm like, I know my body. I know I'm not just having anxiety. Something is wrong with me. Like, I felt sick for the first time. I've always considered myself to feel like healthy, to be a healthy person. I felt sick. I knew something was wrong. And it led me to a state of depression, a state of almost constant anxiousness. And also in the midst of that, had to have a major surgery. I had to have a hysterectomy in the midst of that. So just a lot of things that were going on that just took me to this dark place, to be honest with you. And there were friends that I had reached out to, for prayer, and, just different people that I was leaning in on, and just wasn't seeing any difference. I felt like I was doing all the right things and wasn't seeing a difference. And I remember specifically one day I was in my room and I was praying, and I was like, God, I just need you to take this away from me. I don't understand why I'm having to deal with this. It's been this long. I feel like I'm dying. I'm afraid. I just don't know what's going on. And I remember him speaking to my heart, and he said, if your body never receives its healing, am I still enough? Am I still enough? Is what I have already done for you still enough for you to worship me, for you to still follow me, and it was like, I realized that I had been going after the healing rather than the healer.
Say that again one more time, because that's crucial. I
had been seeking the healing rather than the healer. How many times when we're in a difficult situation do we seek the gift rather than the giver? That the gift becomes more important to us, and it began to shift my mindset, that instead of me taking this time every day to sit there and beg God to give me what I feel like I needed, instead, I would find praises in his word, like from Psalm 105, and just thank him for what he'd already done for me. And it just shifted my whole mindset. Like, yes, God, you are enough. What you have done for me is enough. Even despite all of these, he's healed my body in the past. He provided for us financially. Even if he hadn't even done all of that, if I look at what he's already done is enough for me, and there's a pastor that I listen to. His name's Bill Johnson from Bethel Church. And unfortunately, his wife passed away this past year of breast cancer. She passed away on a Thursday, and he spoke on a Sunday, just a few days after his wife passed, which is crazy to me. But one of the things that just shook my world, he's up there and he said, I keep getting this question, why did she die? He's like, we were praying, we were fasting. There were people that were actually like prayer walking around his home, all throughout the day, just praying for her healing. And he said, I'm going to tell you guys what I told them. I can't answer that. I don't know why my wife's body did not receive her healing. He said, but this is what I do know. God owes me nothing, and I owe him everything.
You're dropping some major heat
today.
I was
like,
Faith.
What? Like that? I mean, just to let that sink in, that God owes us nothing, but we owe him everything. When I think about gratitude, the opposite of gratitude is selfishness, right? Selfishness is all about me, what I need. So if I'm not grateful, I'm being selfish. I'm thinking, okay, God, you owe this to me. I need healing. It's almost as if you owe me healing. You owe me a financial breakthrough. You owe me a job. You owe me. God doesn't owe us anything. Like if I were to receive what I truly deserved, honestly, I'd spend an eternity in hell, right?
That's
because
right, yeah.
I'm a sinful person. I make mistakes all the time. But he gave his son for us, right? He gave us an eternity with him, and he owes us nothing. And sometimes I think we just need to take a step back and realize that, God, you've already done so much for me. And I'm not just coming to you, and I'm not just going to worship you because I want something from you, but because of who you are and what you've already done.
Man, I got to let that sink in a little bit. The idea that God owes us nothing and we owe him everything.
Yeah.
And I'm just thinking to myself, how do I teach that to my kids? And you said it already. You're a mother of 4, and you're also a grandmother, which is awesome.
4.
Of 4, that's right.
Yes.
And I'm almost wondering, with that knowledge that you have, how do you teach that or help apply that to your kids who are all adults now, right?
Yeah.
And your grandkids? How do you and Chris incorporate the idea of such an admiration and just grateful attitude towards the creator of the universe?
Yeah, so I would say the first thing is just by modeling it. Like anything that we teach our kids is by modeling it first. I can say one thing and do another. My kids they watch our lives, right? They watch what we do. They watch how we respond to things. A lot of these situations that we dealt with that I just talked about, our kids were right there along with us. And, I just shared with you how, at first when I was dealing with these health issues, thinking, oh my gosh, this could kill me. I was living in fear. I was living in turmoil. My kids saw that. But what they also saw was their mom be pulled out of that and their mom lean into God. And I was pulled out of it as I leaned into God. So I feel like example is the first thing. And, when we walk through these difficult situations, showing our kids and teaching them, okay, yeah, we might be having this difficult situation, but I'm going to trust God in this. And they see you and hear you praying, and they see you in his word. And maybe you take I would take scriptures and write them on cards like promises, and I would post them on the refrigerator. I'd post them on the bathroom mirror. It was for me, but my kids are seeing this. They're watching this, so that when they have these situations arise in their life, okay, this is how mom dealt with it. This is how dad dealt with it, and it worked for them. They trusted God, and God came through for them. So I think that's the biggest thing. But we also have the advantage of knowing our children, and so one of the things that I've realized with gratitude is, a lot of times it's hidden beneath layers, right? So there might be a layer of pride. There might be a layer of unforgiveness. There might be a layer of selfishness or envy or jealousy. And we have to strip those things off. And so I can't just go into my kid's room and say, okay, you know what? You just need to be grateful. You just need to look at the glass half full. Well, there's a lot of seeds of bitterness that have been planted there because they've got layer upon layer of these sins that have taken root in their life that really need to be stripped away as well before they can get to a heart of gratitude. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does make sense.
So we also need to work on the fact that you've got unforgiveness towards your sibling, or we've got some pride issues that we need to work on. So sometimes these things go hand in hand. So that's the benefit of knowing our children or our grandchildren, is we can see other areas that may be preventing them from getting to that place of gratefulness in their situations.
Yeah, that's so good. Oh man. Stripping away the layers. I'm gonna steal that one from you, if that's okay.
Okay, no, absolutely.
But seriously, that's really good, because I think about, even in my own life, times when I was facing really heavy trials, and you're right, I I had to go to God in order to get certain things healed. I think about when my wife and I had miscarriages, and my relationship with my dad, and the loss of jobs too, right? Like just the idea of I could not see the forest from the trees because there were too many things blocking my view. There were too many layers, as you put it,
Right.
over my heart for me to truly be able to say, man, God is so good. Like I had the head knowledge. The whole time I had the head
Yeah.
knowledge, but it wasn't able to leak into my heart because there were so many things, so many barriers to entry. So that's pretty solid right there.
Yeah. And, a lot of times it's about your focus. So as a kid, I loved Where's Waldo books. Do you remember
They
Where's
were
Waldo
good.
books?
Yeah, I remember. I loved
those, And so you get into this book and you've got this page that's full of all of this stuff, and you've got to dig in and you've got to find Waldo, who may just be sticking his head behind a tree,
That's right.
whatever, to find him. But for me, I didn't just find Waldo and then flip the page and go to the next one, right? I didn't just focus on Waldo. So because half the fun of those books was just the chaos that was going on the page. You know what I'm talking about?
There's always something wacky. Yes, you're right.
So if I'm focused in on Waldo, I'm going to completely miss the fact that this guy over here is slipping on the banana peel, carrying the can of paint, going to dump it on this lady's head
right,
that's
yeah.
sunning herself on the beach. You know what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah.
this is great stuff. This is funny. This is what brings a smile to my face. This is what, makes me laugh. But I have to zoom out my view from focusing on Waldo to see that. So I kind of see it as the same thing. Like a lot of times, like our focus will be so focused and zoomed in on the problem. But if we just zoom out for a minute, we can see, okay, yeah, we have a difficulty here, but I zoom out and I see God's hand over here, and I see God's hand over here. And, oh, you know what? Here's an answer to prayer. Here's an answer. God's moving here. And there's all these other areas that God has been moving in, whether it's in the past or even currently, blessings that God has put before us. And we can choose to either focus on just this narrow little problem, which it may be a big problem, but look at all the other great things, so I have the choice of what I'm going to focus on. And the problem is that when we focus only on the issue, instead of focusing on all the other great things that God has done and is doing, that we're taking glory from him. We're withholding praise from him.
Yeah. Yeah, it's almost like when you look at a tapestry, if you only look at one section or one stitching, it looks terrible, actually,
Yes.
But when you zoom out, you can see the full spectrum. And especially like, I love stained glass windows. I'm not really like an old school church person, but I do love stained glass windows. And if you look at an individual glass, it looks dirty, it looks broken, it looks disheveled. But when you step back and you see, and the light comes in and it hits it, you're like, man, that is one amazing piece of artwork.
Yes.
So I love how you use the Where's Waldo reference, because that was artwork. Somebody took the time to sketch and color that entire thing. They had to conceptualize it. They had to build it. And all for us as little kids, 5, 6, 7, 8 years old, to find the one character that they didn't even finish. Like you
Right.
never got his full body.
Right. Yeah.
But yeah, you look at that and you're like, man. And what you're saying is you're taking in the entirety of that person's work. You're not letting a single pen stroke, a single coloration go to waste.
Right.
Because you're appreciating every piece of work that they put into that amazing tapestry in that book, and you're not trying to miss that.
Right.
So that's a good lesson right there.
Exactly. And we need to remember that gratitude doesn't come by chance. It's a choice, right? I mean, a lot of times we can sit back and say, well, you know what? I would be grateful if my financial situation changed. I would be grateful if I had a different job. I'd be grateful if I, were in a different life situation. But what if that doesn't happen? Or what if it does happen, but chances are something else is going to come up, so we have to choose. It can't happen by chance. We can't leave our gratitude up to chance. It has to be a choice that we make in every decision, because true gratitude is going to happen when I'm grateful, even in the midst of the difficult situation. What is it that I'm going to choose to focus on?
Yeah, absolutely.